Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Susan Houssaye. I am the career advisor here at SoPA, and I wanted to introduce myself and also tell you all some tips and tricks for the interview process. So I did recruiting for over 10 years. So I was the person who was reading resumes in-house at companies, passing them on to the hiring managers, scheduling interviews, and also participating in interviews. So I know the behind the scenes of the interview process, and I want to make sure that you all are prepared when you go in for an interview. And just so you know, when I'm interviewing for a job, I go through this same interview preparation process as well. So we can dive right in and I will share my screen with y'all. I'm going to show you all some just ways to prepare for an interview. And then we'll go over the typical interview questions, how to answer them, and questions to ask at the end of an interview. So there are three, I would say, types of interviews right now. A lot of us are interviewing over Zoom, and another way that recruiters are saving time is they are sending some they're like one-sided interviews where you get sent a link and then you have to pre-record your answers to some preliminary questions before they move through the interview process with you. And then also, of course, there's the in-person interview. And I do think that Zoom interviews were popular, but now I see a trend going back towards calling people into the office to have that human interaction with them in the office. So just be prepared for all three types. So no matter what, wherever you are interviewing, you definitely want to read up about the company or organization, any kind of information you can find out about the company online, checking any recent articles, maybe the company is expanding, they're opening new offices. These are ways that you can show them that you've done your homework in an interview, is to mention some of the company highlights. Prepare what you're going to wear. Simple is best. You don't want them to remember you as the guy with the tie that had, big polka dots on it, or the girl, so you want to just kind of dress simply. You want them to remember you for your personality, not what you're wearing. And I do err on the side of dressing up. Um, no matter what, if you dress even better than the person who's interviewing you, it's just going to say a lot about you. So even if you may have an idea that it's a more casual office, I do always recommend guys wear a suit, girls also wear a blazer and pants, or a blazer and a skirt, um, just so they know that you're serious about getting the job. Prepare your route. I'll drive by the place where I'm interviewing the week before, kind of figure out where I'm going to park. If that is an option for you, it'll just make you a little less stress the day of the interview. Also, if you're interviewing from home and you're Zooming, sometimes if I'm doing a webinar, I didn't do it today, I'll put a note on my front door, like, please don't ring the doorbell, please don't knock, just because sometimes my mailman will ring the doorbell if I have an Amazon package outside or something. So just make sure people are out of the house, pets are out of the house, and all those things. The minute you arrive at an office for an interview, even in the parking lot, your interview begins. You could be walking in a parking lot next to the person who's going to be interviewing you. So make sure you're friendly, polite, you hold the door open for people. The receptionist at an office, oftentimes the receptionist has been working there for many years and their opinion counts too. So make sure you're polite to everyone and they, many companies, they'll go and ask the receptionist, like, oh, did you get to meet so and so? What did you think? I've seen it. I worked at a law firm here in New Orleans. Our receptionists were there for 25, 30 years. So Nadine and Janet, we trusted their opinion on how they felt about how the candidates treated them when they walked in the door. So definitely mind your manners. We'll go over your elevator pitch, which is typically the first question you get asked when you come into an interview is tell us about yourself, and we'll go over that in detail. And stay positive throughout your interview. I always talk to myself in my head the entire time. I say stay positive, smile. And I just put that on repeat. Prepare to send a thank you email after your interview. It's really nice to send one within 24 hours. A lot of students ask me, let's say you were in a room being interviewed by 3 people. It's okay to send one email and include all 3 people. Just as long as it's short, sweet, concise, and you mention 1 or 2 things that were covered in the email that really caught your attention about why you want the position. And, so you want to make it detailed and reference back to some things you talked about in the interview. So it's not just a generic thank you email. I know it's hard to be patient after you've had an interview, but, do wait at least a week to follow up. And I often tell candidates to wait a week and a day after their interview and just send a note to the person who was in charge of your interview and just let them know you remain interested. Sometimes they're interviewing other candidates. The person who's making the decision is maybe on vacation. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And I know it is stressful to wait, but sometimes it takes a little while. When you are about to get an offer, that is typically when a recruiter will ask for your references. So you do want to have 3 references prepared to give to them. References can be a former boss, a former colleague who was your equal, a former colleague who was even below you, or a professor. So really think about the people who you want to use as your references. And these are people who are going to say great things about you. Oftentimes recruiters call references. I used to call references instead of emailing them. I could tell by their tone of voice right away. So if I called someone and I said, hey, this is Susan Houssaye, I'm calling on a reference check for Mary Simmons, and immediately if that person says, oh my gosh, she's so great, I knew I had a good candidate. And so a lot of companies are emailing for references now. And also, if someone emails me, if I'm a reference for someone, I try to use exclamation points to try to show this is a great candidate. So you want to use references. If your gut tells you, I'm not sure this person's going to say great things about me, don't use them as a reference. Use someone else. While you are interviewing for jobs, keep applying to other jobs. Keep the momentum going. Don't just sit around and wait to hear back from that one job, because you might miss another great opportunity. And then just be responsive. Always check your emails, check your voicemails, make sure you have a voicemail set up on your cell phone, make sure your voicemail is not full. I've had a lot of experience in not being able to get in touch with candidates. So those are just some starter tips, and I do want to really touch on questions that are typically asked in an interview. And most often you get to an interview and they say, tell us about yourself. And I really like to break this down in three parts. And those three parts are going to be, I like to hear where someone's from. So if I'm interviewing a candidate and they're from New Orleans and our office is in New Orleans, I love when they say, well, I was born and raised in New Orleans. I went away for college. Now I'm back. I have family and friends here. So it's a little bit personal. It starts out a little bit warm, but they don't really want to hear that you have a dog or, really personal things. So stick to where you're from. And the second part is who you currently are. Currently, I'm in school at Tulane University. I'm in the media and design program. While in school, I work full time. This is my job. I'm working in HR. I'm interested in transitioning out of HR and into a graphic design position or a marketing position or whatever you are next focused on. But if you're whatever is most relevant to the job that you are interviewing for, that's what you want to hit home about. So if it's your current education, what you're currently learning, then you want to emphasize those highlights from your resume and how it pertains to the job that you're interviewing for. And so, then you want to say the third part is I'm really interested in this position and maybe highlight some things from the job description. So one is where you're from, what you're currently doing that's relative to the job that you're interviewing for, and then why you want the job. And then from there, I heard recently from a student who was in an interview and didn't bring a copy of their resume with them. And I know we all don't have printers, but we can print on campus or go to a FedEx. And so the interviewer asked, can you walk us through your resume? Well, the candidate didn't have their resume with them. So please bring copies of your resume with you. Sometimes you do get in a room with people and they have not printed out your resume yet, so you can provide it to them. Walk us through your resume, like I said, and no one knows yourself better than you. As long as you have that resume in front of you, you can definitely walk them through your resume. Why are you interested in working for our company and organization? You're going to have already done your research. You're going to know about the company. You're going to know the job description and what qualifications you have and what skills you have that make you a good fit. If you have a friend who works there, and you know that they really enjoy the culture there, you can bring that up. Sometimes they ask, why are you leaving your current position? And a lot of our SoPA students are looking for jobs in a new field, right? We've gone back to school. We want to do something else. So that is an easy explanation. Always, shy away from saying anything negative about your current organization. You can just say, I really want to follow my passion. I've been, studying IT at Tulane, and I've always known that I've wanted to work in IT, and I have just had the opportunity to go back to school and focus on it. So that's your reason why you're leaving your current position. When you're practicing for an interview, I look at it as you're studying for a test. You want to have answers ready for all these questions that they could possibly ask you. And some of these questions are similar, so they're not going to ask you all of these, right? So the next two are similar. How would you describe yourself in 3 words? If I called your most recent employer, what would they say about you? Those can overlap. So if you have an idea for both of those, that can work. And the reason why companies ask you these standard questions is because they're comparing your answers to the other candidates that they're interviewing. So when they go in a room to make a decision, they're going to say, "Oh, well, I really like how Susan answered this question, and I really liked how Jack answered this question." So they're comparing your answers, and yes, sometimes these questions can be tough. They're very standard, but they're asking them for a reason, just to see how well prepared you are. Where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? The only answer to that question is you want to say you're still with the company you're interviewing with. Um, I'm I've interviewed candidates before who've said, "Well, I might want to move to Dallas in a few years." It's the wrong answer. Because you don't know. It's okay, you can move to Dallas in a few years, but you don't know where I mean, you might fall in love with this job and want to stay at this company forever. They want to hear that you're committed to working for them for this foreseeable future. It's a huge investment for companies to hire. So you want to let them know, that it takes about a year to get comfortable in a job, to learn all the ins and outs. And then after that, you really want to grow in your position, grow with the company, and all those things. So they want to know that you're invested in them and that you see a future with this company. Um, the next question is really popular. It is, what are your strengths and weaknesses? And the way that I like to talk about this is, I know it's plural, but they're really asking for one strength and one weakness. So my strength is that I am organized. So, and this is true. So every job that I have, I start an Excel spreadsheet and I have tabs and I have it named, and it's just one spreadsheet with, I don't even know how many tabs, but I make notes of things that I learn along the way so that I don't have to go back to a colleague and ask that question again. I just put it in a chart, and I'll look through it once a year and edit it. And of course, I add to it all the time. But that is how I stay organized and also make sure that when I learn something at work, I write it down. And so I can go back and reference it, and I don't have to waste someone's time and ask them the same question twice. So what I've just done is I've created a visual for you. In your head, you're picturing this Excel spreadsheet, me naming all these tabs, certain things, saving links to websites, pages, whatever I need to save, phone numbers, company codes, accounting codes. And that's what you want to do in your interview. You want to tell them a story, but it's really powerful to create a vision in their minds so that they remember it. And so and when we talk about our weakness, We do have to talk about a weakness. I say I'm not very good at delegating, and I'm not, but I'm working on it. And so you can say you're watching YouTube videos about it, you're practicing at work, you've done some LinkedIn learning courses on it. You want to end it on a positive, and you can tell them that, give them an example of how you're slowly starting to delegate or whatever type of weakness you're working on, but you want to let them know you're aware of it and you're working on it. And then, a lot of these questions are going to be very specific to experiences that you've had. So tell us about a particularly challenging project you worked on and how you overcame that challenge. Now, this can be a project at school, right? And so think about ways if you had a summer internship or you work part-time or something at school. So you do want to come up with examples. You don't want to have it like scripted, really rehearsed, but you do want to have examples that you can share during these interviews. Um, what qualities do you have that make you a great team player? That might also be something that you've worked on a project at school, or you're in a student organization where you've had to collaborate with other students. This is a question where we could say yes or no, but I don't ever want you to say just yes or no to an answer in an interview. So, if they ask, how well do you work under pressure and deadlines? You can say, I work really well. Or you can tell them, you know, I use my calendar in Outlook, and anything that is really important, I also double book myself and I put it in my calendar in Gmail just so I don't miss a deadline. And I really do that. I handwrite lists every day that I go through, in addition to having things in my calendar. And maybe you're someone who likes to put deadlines in your calendar the day before they're due, or you have some sort of trick so that you don't get stressed out about deadlines. So tell them about that. I mean, they might learn something. And it might not be work related, it could be school related. If you have essays that you have to hand in for class or projects, maybe you try to get them done a week in advance and take 3 days to review it. And you always try to hand it in 2 days early in case there are any issues. So tell them about experiences you've had and how you've handled them, and really try to give a solid example. You don't have to give more than one example as long as yours is concise and it really explains like how your mind works and how you operate in the office. Um, and so I'll send you all these questions. You could also go to ChatGPT, put the job description in, say, what might be some potential questions that I could get asked in an interview? Um, and ChatGPT really will give you some great ideas. They always ask, okay, I should never say always, but 99.9% of the time, they will ask at the end of your interview, do you have any questions for us? And yes, you always want to have 2 or 3 questions that you want to ask. And when I interviewed at Tulane, I actually printed mine out. And in addition to bringing in copies of my resume, I had a list of the questions that I was going to ask at the end of the interview. And it was 7 or 8 questions but I highlighted two or three that I thought I was going to ask. But I had backup questions just in case my favorite questions had already been covered. And another great thing to do is to go into ChatGPT with the job description and say, what are some good questions that I could ask at the end of my interview? Um, Also, you may have to do multiple rounds of interviews. So you will have already asked questions that you wanted to ask. AI can really help you generate additional questions. And I'll send you all these questions. I know I asked, if offered this position, who will I be working most closely with? I really did want to know that. I also think a great question is, what would be my number one priority coming into this role? And they might have a project that the person who had the position before you was working on that you need to jump on if you are offered the job. This one is a good one that is probably not going to be covered in the interview. What does it take to be successful at this job? And, like I said, you can reference ChatGPT for additional questions. You're probably going to have at least one of your own. Don't ask more than 3 questions, but I do think you should have a bunch prepared just in case they cover them. When I was interviewing at Tulane, I said, "Oh, I printed out my questions. Do you mind if I reference them to see if we covered all of them?" And they were like, "Oh," like they were impressed that I had printed mine out. So don't feel like if you are going to look down, even if you're on Zoom with them or if you're in the room with them, you can let them know that you actually took the time to prepare some questions to ask. And oftentimes they will really, look at that as impressive. Hopefully you all are on LinkedIn because there are a lot of job opportunities on here. I see them constantly. You're welcome to connect with me. I like things and repost things all day, every day. And I want to make sure you know that when you are in the interview process, recruiters are looking at your social media. So when I was a recruiter, part of my checklist when hiring candidates was to check their social media. And that does mean Instagram and Facebook, LinkedIn. So make sure I have my Facebook, I guess, almost, people can see that I'm on there, but they can't see my feed and everything. Also, Instagram, you have to request to follow me. I have to, approve it. LinkedIn, I have open. It's for business networking. I am active on here. So this is not something that I suggest you hide. And also, I want to make sure when you all are interviewing for jobs that your LinkedIn profile matches your resume. I have seen some students who maybe go by a nickname. You can always put your nickname on your resume. Your whatever you want to be called, you want to let them know that from the start. So if I went by Susie, I would put on my resume Susan, maybe in quotes, I'd put Susie and then Della Houssaye. Or I would just have Susie Della Houssaye on there. Your resume is not a legal document. You can put whatever name you want to be called on there. Just make sure whatever you have on your resume matches on LinkedIn so they're able to find you. I worked with a student who she had her maiden name on her resume and her married name on her LinkedIn. So it would make it hard for the recruiter to find that candidate. And so you want to make sure you have a nice professional headshot. Hopefully, y'all came on campus last week or 2 weeks ago for professional headshots. Also, a nice background for your LinkedIn. The thing about LinkedIn is it's better to just not have a LinkedIn than to have an incomplete LinkedIn. And on Canva, you can create a, they will give you templates for LinkedIn background photos that will fit perfectly in this space here. So Canva, you can use it. You don't have to pay for it. A lot of the templates are free. So you can use Canva, you can find stuff on Google, pictures of the skyline of whatever city you live in. You can find a Tulane logo, just whatever you're interested in showcasing. But it's always good to have an updated background photo and not just use the one that LinkedIn provides for you. Your about section, I like short and sweet. I did go to Cool Symbol and I copied some symbols so that I bolded text, used some symbols in here and some symbols in here, as you'll see, just to give my page a little bit of pop. LinkedIn doesn't let you bold and change the font. So that's where I go to Cool Symbol to get symbols, and I use the font changer and then copy and paste that into LinkedIn, and I'll send y'all that link. And if you are looking to connect and network with people on LinkedIn, one way to see if they're active on LinkedIn is to go to their activity. So, I mean, you'll see I'm posting things all the time. Also, I have over 500 connections. So it's safe to say that I'm active on LinkedIn. If someone messages me, I write them back. Not everyone does, but it's okay. So not everyone's going to write you back, but it only takes one person to network with and connect with to get you a job. I have my experience on here. I don't have all the bullets from my resume, but I'm a minimalist, so I don't like to have a lot of stuff in general. And I just leave my bullets on my resume. Whoever's interviewing me is going to have a copy of it, but that's just a personal preference. You're going to want to have, your education on here, especially if you're going to be connecting and networking with people who went to the school where you attended. So make sure you have this updated with your Tulane information, any licenses and certifications. We do get LinkedIn Learning for free here at Tulane, so I will send that to you, and that's a big value. Any volunteer work, that could be a really great connection piece for you in an interview. I also put it on my resume. And all the way down at the bottom, which I find really important, is to follow companies where you may be interested in working. I follow companies for all of our programs at SoPA, so I could just see all different types of jobs that are coming up. And oftentimes I will see internship opportunities, full-time positions, and if I'm working with a student and I know that they want a marketing job some at a firm in New Orleans and I see something, I'll share the link, I'll share the post with them via message on LinkedIn. So a lot of these companies are posting and it's free. It's free for you, it's free for them. I do want to say that I have LinkedIn Premium because I wanted to try it out to see if students should pay for it. It's very expensive, and I don't think it gives you, I don't, I don't think it, I don't think it's that much value. Um, so since Tulane does give you LinkedIn Learning for free, and that is part of what is offered in LinkedIn Premium, um, I don't see a huge value in LinkedIn Premium, but if you are looking for a job, I do think you can maybe get it for a month for free trial to check it out. So maybe look into doing something like that. But let's say you're interested in advertising. I'm just going to use Peter Mayer as an example. It's a local New Orleans company. What I like is AI is doing a lot of work for you over on the side here. So let's say you know Peter Mayer because you know someone who works there and you're like, oh, I'd love to work at Peter Mayer. Well, there's tons of other great advertising agencies in New Orleans. So you can look at pages people also viewed and you can be like, oh, wait, I've heard of deep fried advertising. I'm going to follow them. And I've heard of rally marketing and online optimism and all these places. So this is just a quick way for you to add companies to follow where you may be interested in working and check your LinkedIn feed because I promise you, a lot of these companies are posting about job opportunities. People also follow these companies, so you can check these out. Um, See if any of these are of interest to you and follow them. And it's just an opportunity also to go to the company page. You can quickly see if anyone who works here or worked here goes to Tulane or went to Tulane. So we're going to just click on this guy. He is a big deal at Peter Mayer. You want to make sure he still works there. And then he went to Tulane. So in 2 seconds, and maybe you went to LSU undergrad. The this is a simple way to make a connection with someone. So always add a note. And, this opens a dialogue. And I use ChatGPT to write my notes often. You don't have a lot of characters to use to write a note to connect, but you want to get the point across that you both went to Tulane. Maybe you just applied for a job online that you saw at Peter Mayer, so you can let this guy know this. And you don't want to ask them to do anything for you. Everyone's really busy. Maybe once you connect and you start emailing back and or messaging back and forth, and you can sense that this person's willing to help you, can you ask them for help? I always ask people, I tell them why I'm connecting, like, oh, hey, we both attended Tulane and I'm interested in working at Peter Mayer. I hope you're open to connecting. And that's all I say. And some people will connect with people, especially if they mention that they went to the same school. Some people will only connect with people that they personally know. That's not me. But this guy, he has over 500 connections. So chances are high if you introduce yourself and you have that common thread that you both attended Tulane, he's probably going to connect with you. So there's a lot you can tell from someone's profile. He's probably fairly active. He's got an updated background, professional headshot, it's all filled out. So there's a lot of signs that show you that he's probably going to be open to connecting with you. So those are my interview tips. It's just all about preparation and and think of it as you're preparing for an exam. Go over those interview questions. Maybe you can record yourself online answering those questions. You can schedule an appointment with me. You can ask a family member to ask you the questions so you can practice. But the more prepared you are, I promise you, the better you're going to feel and more confident when you step in to go to that interview. So I will send you all a link to this recording once it's available. Also, I'll send you all the documents that we reviewed. And if you all need anything going forward, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you all for attending and have a great afternoon.